Welcome to House of History. We've already looked at the first Japanese kamikaze pilots that Japan utilized during the Second World War. These often young men, of course, had to be trained. One of their instructors was First Lieutenant Hajime Fujii. Now, throughout the war, Fujii requested the Army High Command for permission several times to join his students in kamikaze attacks, but he was refused time and time again because he was more useful as an instructor. Fujii could not help but feel that he was betraying his students by sending them off to die while he remained on the mainland. Eventually, it led to Fujii's family to take drastic action in order for him to be allowed to fulfill his perceived duty. The story of First Lieutenant Fujii is incredibly tragic and really shows how rampant nationalism and total war leads to individuals taking radical action. Hajime Fujii was born on August 30th, 1915, and he grew up with 6 siblings on a farm in eastern Japan. Although his parents wanted him to take over the family farm, Fujii volunteered for the army, joining as an infantryman and manning a machine gun. As a machine gunner, he fought in China at the beginning of the Sino-Japanese War, but during combat a mortar shell blew his left hand to pieces, and he was subsequently transported to a field hospital. In the field hospital, he met Fukuko, a Japanese nurse that treated him. They fell in love with each other and decided to marry. Now, against the wishes of both their families, after all, arranged marriages were the norm in Japan back then. The couple had 2 daughters, Kazuko and Chiko. Now, after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, war broke out between Japan and the United States. As Japanese men were sent to the front lines, Fujii was actually in training. Regardless of his loss of hand, the army sent him to the Army Air Academy. He graduated in the spring of 1943 and became a company commander at the Kamikaze Army Aviation School. Fujii was tasked with training character and mental fortitude among the pilots in training. Pilots in training were told a sense of moral duty to the emperor and their fatherland. There are multiple anecdotes of students of Fujii that confirmed he would often state that if he could, he would die with them on the front lines of battle. One of the grim realities of warfare was that pilots were trained to crash their aircraft into enemy ships or positions if they saw no other option available, even before kamikaze was officially adopted as a strategy. Still, during this time, Fujii was convinced he too would eventually be called to battle, telling his students he would not only let them die, but he, as their company commander, will also surely go. Another conviction of Fujii that returns in many sources about him is that he was convinced words and deeds should be consistent. Now, in October 1944, kamikaze pilots became an official strategy of the Japanese army in so-called Tokutai units. Fujii immediately volunteered for these kamikaze squads, even though his rank was much higher than pilots that were in those squads, not to mention the fact that he had a wife and 2 children. It goes to show, perhaps, how much Fujii either had a sense of duty or a sense of guilt about sending many pilots to certain death while staying behind. Fujii submitted 2 or 3 written appeals to the army command for him to join a Tokutai squadron. All of them were rejected, however. His rank, his importance as a commander and instructor, and his family were the causes listed as the reason for the army to reject him. There isn't any direct information about how Fujii and Fukuko's marriage functioned during this time, but it is safe to say that the fact that Fujii submitted 3 petitions to join a kamikaze squad made an impact on Fukuko. All that is known is that after the last rejection by the Army Command on the morning of December 14, 1944, Fukuko dressed up in her most beautiful kimono, dressed up their children, Kazuko and Chiko as well. She then wrote a letter to her husband, in which she wrote the following: "Since you probably would be worried about us and not be able to carry out your duties because we are here freely, we go ahead before you and will wait for you. Please fight without reserve." She then walked to the Arakawa River near the aviation school Fujii taught at, and jumped into the freezing water, with 1 daughter tied to her wrist and the other girl in a backpack strapped to her back. It took a day for the bodies of the 24-year-old mother and her 2 small children to be found. After Fujii was informed and went to the harrowing scene, he went home to find the letter his wife had left him. Due to it being wartime, the funeral was the next day, and that evening Fujii wrote a letter to his older deceased daughter. The photograph you're seeing is the original letter he wrote. A cold, blustery December day. Your life disappeared as dew on Arakawa's river's bank. It is painfully said that together with your mother you sacrificed yourself ahead of your father because of his fervent desire to lay down his life for his country. However, I hope that you, who as a young girl vanished together with your mother, will be gladly smiling. Father also will soon be able to follow after you. At that time, I'll gladly hold you close to me as you sleep. If Chico cries, please take good care of her. Well, goodbye for a short time. Daddy will perform a great feat on the battlefield and bring it as a present for you. Both you and Chico, please wait for me until then. Now, because the Japanese government didn't want to bring any other families on any ideas, the press was forbidden to publicize about the case. As if this entire case isn't sad enough, Fujii decided that his next petition had to be accepted by Army Command, so he cut off his pinky finger and signed his appeal with blood. Due to the exceptional circumstances, he was finally allowed to join the Kamikaze squadron. On the 8th of February 1945, the 45th Shinbu Squadron under the command of Fujii was formed. His squadron was nicknamed Kaishin, which means cheerful spirit. It consisted of 12 men with 9 Kai-45 Type II Toryu fighters. The squadron trained together until late May, when they were scheduled to be sent to Okinawa. Correspondence from that time shows that Fujii wrote to his mother, whom he told he was happy to carry out his duties, and to Fukuko's father, who he told he was looking forward to seeing his family again in the afterlife. The mission commenced at 5 a.m. on May 28th. On their way to Okinawa, one aircraft crashed in the sea. The 8 other planes reached the USS Drexler and USS Lowry. Although 6 aircraft were shot out of the air, 2 planes crashed into the USS Drexler. Following multiple explosions, within minutes, the USS Drexler had sunk and 158 of its officers and crew died due to the kamikaze attack. As such, the incredibly sad story of Fujii and his last act in life came to an end. It provides a very good idea of the war mentality of many Japanese, where dying while performing your duty was seen as the highest form of honor one could achieve. There is a family grave in Fujii's hometown, where former students of Fujii used to come once a year to pay their respects. Now, if you're interested about more stories about kamikaze pilots, there will be some end cards on screen about the story of the last and the first Japanese kamikazes during the Second World War. Thank you for watching this video. I would also like to thank all my patrons for their generous support. If you enjoy House of History and want to support my work, consider checking me out on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you will already gain access to the exclusive Patreon series. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.